Picture this. You're in the middle of telling your best story. The one that always lands. Everyone's leaning in, except one person. He's not even pretending to listen. He's just there, completely unbothered. And suddenly, your story doesn't sound as impressive anymore. Your voice trails off. You feel small. He never said a word. He never had to. Now, before you click away thinking you know where this is going, understand something. What I'm about to reveal isn't another recycled list of traits or motivational nonsense. This is about the invisible mechanism that operates beneath human interaction. The kind of truth that makes you uncomfortable, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most people destroy egos with weapons. Words, status, aggression. Sigma males do it by removing the battlefield entirely. They don't fight your reality. They simply exist in a different one. And that existence, that complete self-containment, becomes a gravitational force that bends everything around it. Your ego doesn't get attacked. It gets starved. And starvation is a slower, more absolute death. Let me tell you what's really happening when a Sigma male enters a room and changes the entire energy without uttering a syllable. It's not charisma. It's not mystery. It's the absence of need. See, your ego survives on a very specific fuel: reaction. It needs people to engage, to validate, to resist, to acknowledge. It's a parasite that feeds on attention. Positive or negative doesn't matter. But a Sigma male, he's not participating in that economy. He's not buying what you're selling. And more importantly, he's not selling anything himself. This creates a psychological vacuum. Your brain doesn't know how to process someone who isn't playing the social game. Every word you speak suddenly feels like it's echoing in an empty room. Every gesture seems performative because there's no audience validating the performance. You become hyper-aware of yourself, not because he's judging you, but because he's not judging you at all. He's simply not assigning you any value in his internal hierarchy. And your ego, which has spent years building its identity on being assigned value, starts to collapse. Here's where it gets deeper. Stay with me, because this is where most people lose the thread. The Sigma male's power doesn't come from superiority. It comes from immunity. He's immune to the social contracts that govern 99% of human behavior. When you flex, he doesn't feel inferior or competitive. He feels nothing. When you seek approval, he doesn't withhold it strategically. He's genuinely indifferent. When you try to establish dominance, he doesn't submit or challenge. He simply continues existing in his own frame, completely untouched by your attempt. This immunity is what kills your ego. Because your ego has been trained since childhood to operate within a system of comparison and validation. It knows how to handle competition. It knows how to handle conflict. It even knows how to handle rejection. But indifference, true, authentic indifference, that's kryptonite. That's the one thing your ego has no defense against. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds like sociopathy or narcissism. And this is the critical distinction most people miss. A narcissist needs you to know he doesn't need you. A sociopath manipulates your need for him. A Sigma male genuinely doesn't register you as a variable in his equation. There's no performance in his indifference, no strategy, no hidden agenda. He's not trying to make you feel small. He's just large enough within himself that there's no room for your validation to land. Let me take this further because we're approaching the core mechanism. Your ego operates on a fundamental assumption that you matter in every interaction. That your presence, your words, your status create ripples that others must respond to. When a Sigma male doesn't respond, doesn't react, doesn't adjust his behavior based on your input, he's not insulting you. He's revealing a terrifying truth. You don't matter as much as you thought. Not to him. And if not to him, then maybe not to anyone else either. Maybe your entire sense of importance has been an elaborate construction maintained only by people polite enough or insecure enough to play along. This is the ego death I'm talking about, not the spiritual kind they sell in ayahuasca retreats, the brutal social kind. The realization that your carefully constructed identity has been performing for an audience that might not actually exist, and the Sigma male becomes the messenger of this truth simply by refusing to be that audience. But here's what separates the wise from the wounded. Most people, when they encounter this, they either attack or retreat. They try to force a reaction. They escalate, they insult, they peacock harder, or they withdraw completely, nursing their wounded pride. Both responses prove they've missed the lesson. The Sigma male isn't your enemy. He's your teacher. He's showing you that freedom exists outside the prison of validation. Think about how much energy you spend managing impressions. How many decisions you make based on how they'll be perceived. How many words you rehearse before speaking. How many outfits you reject because they don't send the right signal. How many achievements you pursue, not because you want them, but because of how they'll look. The Sigma male has exited that entire exhausting system. And his exit creates a crack in your matrix. Through that crack, you can see two paths. The first path is denial. You can tell yourself he's weird, antisocial, missing out on life. You can gather others around you who validate your need for validation. You can build thicker walls around your ego and insulate yourself from anyone who doesn't feed it. This is the path most people take. It's comfortable, it's familiar, it's also a prison sentence. The second path is transformation. You can use the discomfort as information. You can ask yourself why his indifference threatens you. What part of your identity depends on universal acknowledgement? What would happen if you stopped performing? What would remain of you if all the validation disappeared tomorrow? This path is terrifying because it requires you to confront the possibility that you've been constructing yourself from the outside in, that you've been living as a reaction to others rather than as an expression of self. The Sigma male has already walked this second path. That's why he can stand in a room full of noise and not add to it. That's why he can watch the social chess game without moving a piece. That's why his silence is louder than anyone's words. He's not playing hard to get. He's not playing at all. And in a world where everyone is performing, authenticity becomes the ultimate power move. Except, it's not a move. It's just existence. Now here's what you need to understand about silence as a weapon, though calling it a weapon misses the point entirely. When a Sigma male remains silent in a conversation, he's not withholding words strategically. He's simply not compelled to fill space. Your ego interprets this as judgment because your ego projects its own insecurities onto blank canvases. His silence becomes a Rorschach test. You see in it whatever you fear most about yourself. He's doing nothing. You're doing everything, and exhausting yourself in the process. This is why arguments with Sigma males feel so unsatisfying. They don't engage with your provocations. They don't defend themselves against accusations. They don't fight for the last word. They simply let you spend your energy while they conserve theirs. It's not a tactic. It's conservation of self. They know that engaging with ego-driven conflict is like wrestling in mud. Everyone gets dirty, and the pig enjoys it. So they don't wrestle. They stand on dry ground and watch you tire yourself out. But let me give you the paradox that breaks most people's brains. The Sigma male's indifference isn't born from not caring about anything. It's born from caring deeply about the right things. He's indifferent to your validation because he's devoted to his mission. He's unmoved by social status because he's moved by personal standards. He's silent in meaningless conversations because he's loud in meaningful action. His ego death isn't nihilism, it's prioritization, so severe it looks like detachment. This is what makes him dangerous to your ego specifically. He's proof that happiness, fulfillment, and power exist outside the system you've invested everything into. He's walking evidence that the game you're playing is optional, that the rules you're following were made up, that the judges you're trying to impress have no real authority. And your ego, which has staked its entire existence on that game, those rules, those judges, sees him as an existential threat. So, what does your ego do? It tries to pull him into the arena. It asks for his opinion, hoping to find a weakness in his worldview. It challenges his choices, trying to force him to justify himself. It gossips about him, attempting to recruit others into validating your perspective. It dismisses him as arrogant, cold, or damaged. Anything to avoid the real question. What if he's free and I'm not? This is the ultimate ego death. Not humiliation, not defeat, but the slow dawning realization that you've been a volunteer in your own imprisonment, that every chain weighing you down was one you welded yourself, that the Sigma male isn't special or enlightened or superior. He's just awake. And once you see someone walking freely, you can't unfeel the weight of your own chains. Here's what happens in those final moments when your ego finally breaks in the presence of a Sigma male. There's no dramatic confrontation, no verbal destruction. Just a quiet moment where you realize your performance has been for nothing. That all the energy you spent crafting an image, defending a reputation, climbing a hierarchy, was energy he spent building something real, something internal, something that doesn't evaporate when the audience leaves. And in that moment, you have a choice. Rebuild the ego stronger, higher, more defensive, or let it die. Let the false self that needed everyone's approval dissolve. Let the constructed identity that required constant maintenance crumble. And in that space, maybe, just maybe, discover what you actually are when no one's watching, when no one's judging, when no one's keeping score. The Sigma male won't tell you which choice to make. He won't even acknowledge the crossroads you're standing at. He'll just continue existing in his own frequency. And that existence, that infuriating, liberating, ego-destroying existence, will remain the silent invitation you can either accept or spend the rest of your life resenting. Because here's the final truth, the one that makes all of this make sense. The Sigma male isn't killing your ego. Your ego is committing suicide. It's dying from starvation because it finally encountered someone who won't feed it. And starvation reveals what's real. When everything that depended on external validation falls away, what remains is either nothing or everything. The Sigma male has already discovered which. And his silence is just him giving you space to discover it for yourself. That's the real power. Not domination, not competition, not even indifference. Just complete self-possession. And complete self-possession in a world of desperate seeking is the most radical act possible. It doesn't need to say a word. It doesn't need to prove anything. It just is. And that being, that simple, unshakable being, dismantles every ego it encounters, not through force, but through contrast. Your move,